Hello and welcome to the Sprues and Brews video. Today's an exciting one because we're checking out all of the different Liber volumes for the third edition of Warhammer The Horus Heresy. So I'm going to kick it off with the Liber Astartes. Now unfortunately we've not got a physical one we can show you, so we'll be kind of reading through the rules here, chatting about how things have changed, what core stuff's in there, and kind of what's taken your eye, Jay, because you've been having a look through this book for us, haven't you?
Yeah, that's right. So the Liber Astartes and the Liber Hereticus are the two sort of books that contain. They've got a lot of commonality between them. So they've got a lot of the general rules for building a Legion Astartes army, all of the unique detachments and things like this. And then of course we've got the sort of shared profiles between the two loyalist and traitor forces. That makes up a big bulk of the book. And of course the second half of the book is then dedicated to the various loyalist and traitor legions respectively. Second edition was when they introduced the Liber Astartes and Liber Hereticus, and these books are very similar. So if you're familiar with those books, the format of these books is very, very similar.
I would say the format of them is better though, because one of the problems I had with Liber Hereticus and Astartes is that you had the generic stuff, and then you had some like weapon profiles and war gear stuck in the middle, and then you had your different legion ones, and then you had some universal special rules stuck in somewhere else. Where now all that kind of like index stuff is in the back of the book.
It is, yeah. You get like a rules appendix at the back of both books, which all of the special rules, the war gear.
And that's every special rule that applies. So even the stuff that's in the core book is repeated in the back of that. Yeah. So you finally just need that one volume to play, which is a great change, isn't it?
A big sort of quality of life improvement there. So the books themselves then, yeah. So they clock in, I think, let me just do a quick page count here actually. Because they're quite weighty tomes.
Yeah, 338 pages, I think, off the top of my head. A big chunky tome. You know, they're on par to we've got the Age of Darkness rulebook in front of us there, and I think they're a similar RRP to that, and you know, a big chunky volume. Because if you think, I mean, like you mentioned there, Dave, at least they haven't done a separate book with the generic stuff, and then you pick your legion.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, half that book's duplicated, but not exactly, Jay. There are some subtle things that are different, like the Dracorians, and there's a few generic like HQ choices. I mean, I guess before we kind of get started, is it worth us just talking a little bit about army building in third edition?
Yeah, I think so,
because the detachments make a big difference, don't they?
Yeah, and there are some rules in these books that sort of reference and interact with the army building. So I think that's a good shout.
Yeah, so essentially the way it works, and I'm sure you've seen all this on Warcom already, but you get a primary detachment. Which has a high command, 4 command slots, 4 troop slots, and 4 light transport slots, because there's now a distinction between light and heavy transports. For each command slot that you fill, you can take another detachment. Now your high command unlocks what are called apex detachments, and these are generally better ones that have a mix of units that kind of feel like that legion. We'll talk about them later, but most legions have an apex detachment that will, say White Scars for example, it will have 2 fast slots and 2 bike slots, so you can take jet bikes and bikes because that's very White Scarsy. On the kind of the traitor side for the Sons of Horus, you've got one that essentially allows you to take Reavers, Justarian and Spartans within an apex slot, which means you get those flavourful units without having to buy extra detachments for them. Now each command slot that you add, you can pick a detachment, unless it's got the Officer of the Line rule, which allows you to get 2 detachments instead of 1, which is really good. We were a little bit worried at first that you were going to be a little bit restricted in kind of what you can take, but those like your Centurions, which we'll come to in a bit, are a great option for opening up more detachment slots. And then on top of that as well, there's prime slots as well, which if you fill, you can take a bonus of some description. It could be you guys fight slightly better, for example, or you can take any slot of your choice, and that's a great one for taking your dreadnoughts and stuff, because the dedicated war machine slot has only got 1 slot in it, and I think that's been a purposeful thing here. That essentially means in most 3,000 point games you're really limited to about 3 dreadnoughts unless you specialise, which is what people were house ruling anyway in second edition.
Yeah, we tend to find that, and I mean, and it's interesting. I mean, when I was going through the loyalist tome as well, you mentioned those extra detachments which are sort of tuned to reflect the sort of theme and nature of that legion, which is really, really good. The Iron Hands one, we'll come to it. That's one which does allow you to include more dreadnoughts, which is thematic. So Cool.
Do you know what I like about the new detachment system is it kind of feels like a bit like materia from Final Fantasy. You unlock one thing, it unlocks a different thing.
Yeah.
I think it's coming for a little bit of criticism, but I actually prefer it. I think it's it makes it's almost like a tactical create your army phase.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that you need to see in person as well. It's alright seeing half the info online. Until you've got the levers in your hand, then you start to see. When we were doing it a couple of weeks ago when we got the stuff in our hand, trying to work out Iron Warriors Force for you, and at first it was a little bit snooky thinking, it's going to be a real struggle to fit these in, but then once we started adding those heroes, then we had plenty of space to play around with it.
Yeah, I think little heroes, little HQ units are the winner in this edition, aren't they?
I think
they're your command. So this is it in the Space Marine in the Legion of Astartes. Your high command slot is really just your Praetor.
Yeah.
And your command slot then is the big slot, which is where you find all of your officers, your Centurions, your console options, that kind of thing. And there's lots of them to choose from.
You probably will need to, if you're very light on characters, you probably will need to buy some more characters for your army. But even if you had a Praetor and a Centurion, that will unlock a lot of slots for you, those alone. So don't worry too much that your army is invalidated. The only real ones that would be, I think, a full like Dreadnought list, which you can still do, but you need the heroes to generate the slots for it, and that means all your slots are going towards Dreadnoughts then as well.
Yeah.
So should we start with the kind of the detachments then, Jay?
Before we go on to the detachments, I guess I think there's a few things. So so a Legion of Astartes army, for a start, your primary detachment. So when you're building your army, you can have a primary detachment which is aligned to a faction, and then you can add the allied detachments and things from other factions. If your primary detachment is a Legion of Astartes, and you've got one of those, either a Praetor as a high command, or you've got a Primarch in there with that Master of the Legion. So Master of the Legion used to unlock your Rites of War. What it does now is it gives you an extra reaction point. So if you've got a model with the Master of the Legion rule in your primary detachment, you get an extra reaction point in each I think it's each phase.
So extra reaction point each turn. So reaction points to get. So again, this is something that's a little bit different, and again, we've got a full write-up of the core rules over on spruesandbrews.com. We've also done a video flick through the book as well, and reactions are a little bit different now. You get in a 3,000 point game 2 reaction points to spend in your opponent's turn, and you can spend them when you like. Each unit can only have 1 reaction done on it, but there's nothing to stop you doing 2 Overwatch reactions, for example. I know there's a lot more reactions too. Challenging in your opponent's turn is tied to a reaction. A lot of psychic powers are tied to reactions, so I think it's going to be interesting. Before every phase, you're like, well, I may as well do Return Fire, I may as well do Evade, because there was no downside to doing it. Where now, that's more of a valuable resource to keep on, so anything that gives you an extra reaction point is very, very valuable, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's sub-units as well in the Astartes list that allow you to make reactions with reduced costs and reactions for free and things like that. So
that's one thing worth pointing out as well. But all the reactions at the minute cost 1 reaction point, but there may be things in the future that cost multiple. There may be powers that force people to spend multiple as well.
Yeah, the penalties and things. Yeah, and then there's sort of like your general Space Marine rules. Each Legion as well that's presented in here, there's a sort of format to the rules for each Legion. So there's a section of their armoury, so this is the special war gear, and maybe some of the special units and or options that are unique to that Legion are covered in that section. There's a Rite of War section which introduces each Legion has a Legion Tactica, which is like think of these like the old, like in Carmine Fury for the Blood Angels in 2nd edition, which is like a Legion trait almost. You get Legion specific detachments like you mentioned before. There's Legion specific advanced reactions, so each Legion has their own advanced reaction. And then there's also gambits, unique gambits. So gambits are anything in this edition of Horus Heresy, really, really interesting. So the whole challenge sort of rule set has been really expanded, and it's a really important part of the
a mini game.
It is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but what's nice about this as well is that there's always a weird few rules interacting in 2nd edition where, say if you had a lone Primarch, Dave, and Jay had Vulcan and some guys, he could challenge with Vulcan and you'd have to accept it, but then his guys can still punch you.
It's as if that happened recently.
I know, it's as if it. But what happens now is that they essentially the people in challenge are kind of independent now. They can't be affected by anything outside them, so they're fully kind of removed. Even if there's guys standing there doing nothing, fine. Your Primarchs challenge this Primarch, so they're going to sit and watch that and then see what happens afterwards.
Get a popcorn in.
Exactly, yeah. And but the way it works is that each player, taking turns, so that you can react to what they pick as well, will pick a gambit, and that will generally interact with things. So you could have, okay, I want to try and strike fast, but at the cost of doing less damage, or I want to hit really hard with more attacks, but I'm probably going to be attacking after J. And it's kind of weighing up the pros and cons of that. You know, that's a high level way of looking at it. But there's some interesting stuff, like the Thousand Suns, for example, have one where you do a dice roll and add initiative to kind of work out the kind of the combat order, where the Thousand Suns one's really cool because they can just use their willpower instead, which is like 10 or 11 depending on the hero. So you're probably going to be hitting first, but you're not going to have any extra bonuses that some of the other ones do. So it's kind of weighing up what you want to do, which makes it really interesting. If you win a fight and you haven't killed the opponent, you could opt to keep that combat going until someone dies. Equally, you can opt to kind of like, well, okay, I'm winning, so let's lick me wounds and we'll break it off a little bit and see what we can do next turn. So there's lots of gambits for the different legions that interact with that side of things, isn't there?
Each legion has its own gambit that's available for that legion, and a lot of the individual units, characters have their own gambit. The primarchs have their own gambit, and then there are some special kits. So Sigismund, for example, has a gambit. Raldron has a gambit as well that's available to him. I really like it. There is a lot though, and I think it's, you know, I wonder when you're arriving at a table for a game with somebody, you need to keep in mind what gambits they've got access to, because it can, you know, it's a lot to keep track of, I think, as if you're coming new to the game. I think over time you'll get more familiar with what gambits legions sort of favour, and you can sort of figure out how you need to approach that challenge. But it's, you know, it is a very, very exciting and interesting sort of set of rules. So
yeah, and I guess challenges are going to be a rare but impactful thing now. You know, your squad leaders can't challenge anymore. It's only going to be your champions and your
you need to have the champion
unit
type. So like retinues full of chosen from second edition, they don't exist anymore. It's just the chosen champion that can accept and declare challenges.
So yeah, that's really exciting.
So the detachments then, you said, so you've got the core detachments in the rulebook. The Liber Astartes and Hereticus, they also bring a load of sort of Space Marine flavoured detachments as well, which help you sort of build the sort of traditional looking Space Marine armies that you like. Interestingly enough, in the Liber Astartes, which is the Loyalist Liber, it also includes the demonic manifestation.
It does. I think it's just been a copy and paste the first half.
There's also a prime advantage we'll come to in a minute, which is very, very traitor. So this is a traitor only detachment.
But I suppose that gives you room for doing traitor loyalists.
Yes, because you can do a traitor Blood Angel army, and then you've got this. So you're right. You will find a use here with the Loyalist legions. Like you say, you give them the traitor allegiance. Yeah. So this one allows you to take the demonic brutes from the Demons of the Ruinstorm army, and they're heavy assault slots. I think 3 heavy assault slots.
These more specialised detachments have got a better mix of sometimes you've not got really enough room to play with. I think your generic heavy assault one's got 2 heavy assault slots, which rapidly gets filled with a lot of Terminators go in that slot. Obviously these Demon Brutes do. So by taking this, okay, so you need an Esoterrorist to unlock that, but that means you could take 3 units of Demon Brutes in there and then use your Prime Advantage slot for something else. So I think with these kind of things, there's like apothecaries. I think have their own.
There's an apothecary and a Tech Marine Covenant, which are very similar. So these are 6-slot detachments. But they have to be filled by apothecaries or Tech Marines. But then you're right; they're not taking slots up then in your primary detachment or your auxiliary and apex.
And what's nice, they've got a prime slot in there that will unlock another slot. So you don't feel like you're wasting by taking a detachment of 6 apothecaries, because you can get another slot of a dreadnought if you wanted. So I think that works really, really well. You do get some new prime advantage. You mentioned the Corrupted Legions one, which interacts with the demons and stuff.
Yeah, so that's a common, obviously, that all the legions share, this Corrupted Legions one. So if you've got a unit in one of the prime slots in one of your detachments, you can give them this prime advantage. And this it's really cool. So basically what happens here is they become sort of immune to the ordinary effects of tactical statuses, and they take damage instead. Tactical statuses are a big part of 3rd edition as well.
They are. So, so before we really had leadership to interact with kind of morale checks and stuff. We're now, some of the old Rogue Trader stats have come back. So cool, intelligence, I'm forgetting another one off the top of my head.
Willpower, intelligence, cool, and leadership.
Yeah. So those really cool used for most of these status checks. and that can do some really impactful stuff. I mean, the big one for me is that if you've got a status of any flavour, you're initiative 1.
Yeah.
Which makes a big difference. If you can get a big heavy hitter unit down to initiative 1, you're hitting before them.
Yep.
That's a big deal, isn't it? And also they've got, the pinned one means you can't move. The suppressed one means you can't react. The stunned one means you can only snap fire off the top of my head.
There's one as well which means you can't claim objectives or hold.
And you can't claim objectives.
Is that any tactical states?
I think that's any of them. Yeah. So they're really, really powerful, and a lot of the in second edition, a lot of people went to various weapons because they were effective. So 10-man squads of las cannons, for example, could deal with anything in the game, couldn't they? Dreadnoughts with Brutal 3 could deal with most things. Where now, you might be more inclined to take weapons that are less powerful on paper, but can inflict these statuses.
Yeah, I mean, I've been looking at flamers and heavy flamer weapons, and I'm building a Salamander's army at the moment, and they get some extra sort of panic. So panic is a new special rule on some weapons, which is a negative modifier on those tests for pinning and things like this. I think the advanced characteristics as known are going to play a really, really important part in the game. And you're right, you now don't necessarily have to blow a unit off the board. You can
essentially nullify them with,
yeah, exactly, yeah. And there's a whole Nuncio Voxes and having sort of a command structure in your army to try and mitigate some of the impacts. I think it's a really, really cool sort of introduction, or I've expanded it because it was just leadership before.
It was, yeah. And this way you can have a unit that's maybe brave but not so cool on the battlefield, or a unit that's maybe not so great on the leadership stats but is really good at repairing vehicles. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it adds a bit more nuance, and we'll see that. I mean, if we go through that now, if we jump to the kind of like the various HQ options here, even in the kind of like high command slot, you've got a few different flavours of Praetor now, haven't you?
Yeah, so you've got the Praetor in what was Artificer Army. There is no Artificer Army anymore. It's just a save value you get, but it's the same thing basically. And the 4 advanced characteristics there: leadership 10, cool 9, willpower 9, intelligence 9. That Praetor can be armed with, equipped with a jump pack, so you can have your jump pack Praetor, but you can't have a Praetor on a jet bike. Not yet, anyway.
Yeah, now they did say that a lot of anything without a model, and there's no official model for a Praetor on a jet bike, will get Legends rules. Now, unlike with Old World, for example, unlike with 40k to some extent, Legends rules are going to be fully legal at Warhammer World events, which is, I guess, the benchmark for people running events of their own, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think we were a little bit concerned when the 3rd edition was coming around that a lot of old non-supported models would get phased out. So yeah, I suspect, again, we've not seen any of the Legend stuff at the time of filming this, but I suspect a lot of those models will be in those rules, allowing you to do your full jet bike White Scars army, though cavalry can't score objectives either, so you're going to have to be careful with that too.
But there's plenty more ways of getting victory points in this edition of the game, so there's some really, really cool sort of special rules like Vanguard and different things. Before we jump on to the roster though, and the profiles, I know we jumped ahead there to the Praetor. I just wanted to point out that there is a war gear list at the front of the book as well. So there's it's broken down into different tables. So there's a Legion officer section of war gear. You've got Terminator melee weapons, Legion heavy weapons, and these give you all the points for the various weapon options in those lists. The rules for them are at the back of the book, like we mentioned before, but then you'll find quite a lot of the profiles referenced. This unit can take any selection from the Legion officer list and things like that. It just helps to keep it all consolidated, and I quite like that.
Synchronising points costs. It's worth pointing out here as well, there's no like buying Artificer armour for your sergeants and stuff anymore either.
No, there isn't. No, there's a fair mix of additional sort of complexity and options and crunch, like we called it the other day.
The crunch.
But then there is also
crunch taken away in other places.
Crunch taken away in other places as well. Yeah.
The crunch that's taken away seems to be stuff that was a bit like the rolling your saves on your guy and Artificer armour.
Yeah, I didn't like that. It just made it more complicated. You didn't need it.
Yeah, it was It was silly. So they've taken that out. There's still units that have got artifice for armour, but that's now baked into their cost, and the unit's got it. There's no gamey kind of, I'll take it on that guy until he dies.
Yeah, and you're right, that's been baked into the profile. I think what's also been baked into the profile is obviously you don't get an extra attack now for having 2 close combat weapons.
Yep.
You know, basically if you're armed with a bolt pistol and a chainsword, the extra attack is already on your profile. So Assault Marines, for example, they have 2 attacks on their profile. Yeah. Whereas previously it was 1 attack, and you knew in your head you added an extra attack for the 2 close combat.
And at first I think you were a little bit dubious of that, weren't you? But I think in the grand scheme of things, it does kind of...
It balances out, I think. So, I mean, if you look at the Praetor, I think a Praetor in 2nd edition, had 4 attacks.
Yeah.
And then you got an extra attack because most likely they had a plasma pistol and a power sword. Here they have 5 attacks on their profile.
That's good.
Yeah, so we'll get this. There is also, before you jump into the unit profiles themselves, you've got these Legioners Decorion, which is the these little tank upgrades.
I remember them. The Imperial Fists and Sons of Horus.
Yeah, so there's 2, and they're, so you've got the Decorion Defensor and the Decorion Locus, and these are available. There's some restrictions. So, for example, the Defensor can be added to a Predator, a couple of specific Sicarii models, or the Kratos Assault Tank, and they just give you some different things. The Defensor is really cool because it allows you to make additional volley attack. So volley attack is a new sort of thing as well.
Volley attack's so cool. So I guess it's probably worth us explaining volley attack here as well. Apologies for we read the in-depth review, but there's a lot of context on these. So charges are different. Now, Dave, you are legendary at feeling charges.
I was. And I am.
I think they make it more difficult because the maximum charge distance for Space Marine is now going to be 9 inches. So you look at the movement plus initiative, and that'll give you a number. So 11, will that be for Space Marine off the top of my head? Something like that.
Yes.
And then that will translate to a distance. So for Space Marines, that's 3 inches. So you want to charge someone, you'll move the 3 inches after working out your
that's your step up
movement plus
set up, isn't it? Set up.
And at that point, both you and the opponent can make volley fire, which is anything with the assault keyword can snap fire at each other.
Okay.
Your opponent could use a reaction point there to overwatch, which means they can fire everything at ballistic skill. Now, volley fires just on your assault weapons, so there's a lot of weapons in the game that aren't going to be able to volley fire at all. Now, obviously this rule interacts with that though, Jay, doesn't it?
Yeah, so this allows basically you make a volley attack, I think it might be your pintle weapons or your defensive weapons. I can't recall now if you were charging a vehicle, and then this one he makes a second volley attack with his pintle weapon as well. So it just gives you a bit more extra deterrent against charging vehicles if you're trying to run in with melter bombs.
So once you've done that, and obviously a wily player might remove models from the front of the unit using that, and then you roll 2d6, Dave, and you pick the highest one. Oof. So the highest move 6 inches. If you make it, amazing, you made combat, but bear in mind, I would absolutely remove that guy up front if you killed him with volley fires, but they charge harder.
Yeah, and the point defence as well adds another -1 movements on your roll to see it takes 1 off as well once you've been
if you fail the charge, there's no surge anymore, you immediately make a cool test. If you fail it, I think you're stunned or suppressed. The one that means you can't make reactions, which also means your initiative 1 without being able to make reactions 4 inches away from the opponent.
Very vulnerable.
Well, I enjoyed playing Heresy 3rd edition. I'm going to go back to Sigmar. It does sound like a challenge, but I think it also sounds quite cool.
I quite like that. You don't have to get close to make the charges. There's no
long ball charges.
Some units, fast units can, because they can get the bigger step-up move.
What this immediately puts me in mind is that original Dawn of War trailer, when the Space Marines and the Orcs are charging each other across the battlefield, firing the bolt pistols and then getting into each other. That's exactly what it should be.
Now realise why I'm building a shooting army.
Yeah, there's some units for the Firestorm rule, which allows them to fire that at full ballistic skill as well, off the top of my head as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the Solar Auxilia, they've got access to the Hermes Light Sentinels. Charging
people with shotguns and stuff who can fire at full. It's a bit of a risk, so it's going to make combat very interesting because you might get a bit bloodied going in.
Yeah, and also, in 2nd edition, there's an incentive for getting a charge off, because you get the extra attacks for charging.
Yeah.
You used to also trigger a lot of special rules like Furious Charge and things like this. Now it's a bit more of a level playing field, even if you are charged, because you're both making volley attacks. The charged is potentially making Overwatch, and then the charged is still making as many attacks as they would if they had charged. You know what I mean? extra attack for charging anymore. So
so it's a risk, but I guess that feels more cinematic, doesn't it? Like, you know, you watch a film, you've got people like running across no man's land, getting pounded by gunfire.
Yeah.
You didn't really get that in second edition Heresy.
No.
You arguably didn't get that in 40k.
Your opponent's just waiting.
Yeah, and there's not a lot they can do to react to that. So, I mean, the evade reaction was one that people used to do in second edition, which gave you a
5+
shroud. Yeah. In Heresy, basically what that means is you do the step up move, and then that evade lets them move away initiative. So they only need to move outside 6 inches and you can't be charged anymore.
That's cool.
And you still get the advantage of your volley fire as well.
That's cool. Yeah, I like that.
So I guess
going off a bit of tangents, but I mean, it's a new edition, and there's,
I think,
like you said, a bit of context with some of the rules. It makes it a bit
and
more
we'll probably
easy
do
to
this going
digest.
through, talk about some of the rules points. So what we're going to do now is jump ahead and have a look at the profiles.
Right, yeah, so let's have a look through the sort of unit options then for the Space Marines. So these are the common unit options across both the trades and loyalists. So yeah, in the high command slot, you've just got the Praetor. We sort of spoke about that earlier on. Notable in its absence is the Jetbike Praetor, but in its place you get the lovely new Saturnine Praetor.
You do, which is down here somewhere, I think.
Yeah, it's paid the lovely Thousand Sun Saturnine Praetor.
He's a beast, isn't he?
really
Absolute
nice
monster.
model.
And he is, I mean, profile-wise, they weren't too far off the mark when they said he's sort of comparable to a Primarch.
Yeah.
You know, most Primarchs are strength and toughness 6 with 6 wounds. This guy is toughness 6 with 6 wounds.
Yeah.
He's got a 2+ save, 4+ invulnerable.
Weapon skill 6 as well, so can pop a fight.
Weapon skill 6. Some of the Primarchs do have weapon skill 6. So, you know, I mean, he's only strength 4, but he gets access to some really, really nice weaponry. So this is the new the Saturnine axe, is it?
And the hammer as well.
The Disruption axe, yeah. Disruption fist, sorry, yeah.
So I really like this because, like, a lot. I mean, not every. We only recently come back from a tournament, and not everybody had a Primarch. But this just gives you so much more options.
Yeah.
If you really want a killer character.
I think so, yeah. And you obviously, you know, in some games it's nice to play using your own characters, but he's like a walking tank. This guy, so he's nice.
And I think most zombies will take a Praetor because that obviously that unlocks your Apex slot as well.
It does, and it gives you that Master of the Legion which, for that extra reaction point as well. So he's great. And then you go into the command slot, and this is a very, very big slot. So this is where I like to call them the officers of the Legion, and these are really, really important in 3rd edition because these are how you get those extra detachments in your army. So you've got the standard Centurion, who, you know, he's a respectable profile as well. He's got that Officer of the Line 2 special rule, which is really important. He can be taken with a jump pack.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Again, no option for Jetbike there, but again, that's probably Legions.
No option for
Legends.
Yeah, you do get the Terminator variant, so the Cataphracti and the I think you can take a Tartarus one. I think. Yes, you can. You can be replaced with Tartarus. Yeah, and actually, I think there's going to be a place for just generic Centurions in a lot of armies as well.
Honestly, 80
Keep them
points
cheap,
and it unlocks that extra detachment. It's worth it alone for that.
Yep. You've got the even cheaper Opti, he's like an upgraded sergeant, really. You know, just sort of thrown into command, and maybe the Praetor's been died in the initial strike, and you just need to. I think you can have a lot of fun with like 1,000-point games with one of these guys.
You could, and again, in small games, that's a nice character to unlock more slots as well, because in 1,000 points you might struggle a bit more to get your varied force in. Where a 50-point guy that unlocks another detachment, this is it.
He doesn't have the officer of the Legion, but he does bring a detachment with him, so that's cool. The Damocles command ran at us here as well, and this is really cool. So this has got a cool rule where basically the units that are embarked on it, you can use their advanced characteristics from that unit, and it interacts with other rules in the thing as well. So it's a really, really cool little option here. It has the Vox. What's it called? Do you know the array thing on the top? Yeah, Command Vox Relay. Yeah, so this comes as standard with the Command Vox Relay, which is really, really cool because this has an ability.
You can basically increase your reserves test by 1.
Yeah, and that's important now because you can only bring one unit on.
You can bring multiple on from reserves, but only one
just from Deep Strike. And this gives you that +1 modifier. It doesn't have the ability. I think it used to in 2nd edition be able to make it more difficult.
Penalise the opponents
but
as
that's
well.
gone. But what else is gone is it's able to select a unit in your army each turn, and either give it the Vanguard special rule or the Line special rule. And these are really, really cool special rules. So Line, in 2nd edition, that's what you needed to be able to score claim objectives and score points. What Line does now is it grants you additional victory points if you've got a unit of line that's holding an objective. Vanguard is sort of the inverse. Vanguard gives you extra victory points if you kill enemy units that are holding objectives.
But you can't score points yourself.
But you can't score points yourself.
Right.
So you find a lot of the heavy assault and aggressive units in the Space Marine Army have the Vanguard special rule, which really sort of gives them a whole purpose to send them up the board
And get people off objectives.
Get people off the objectives, yeah.
But what's cool with this is that you just turn and just battered a unit, got some points for it. In the following turn on your Vox Relay, and then they can score with line.
Yeah, so I think the Command Rider is a really, really nice unit.
It's a nice tank as well.
Yeah. You've got the Librarian, access to all of the psychic disciplines, and the psychic sort of element of the game has also been sort of...
Yeah, so it's back to being essentially, old world magic, isn't it? Rather than, you do a willpower test to get your spell off, you can peril the warp, you roll the double, the other player can spend a reaction point to try and dispel it, for want of a better word. Each psychic discipline's also got their own reactions, so again, the traitors, but Thousand Suns can put up a Fantastic Four style force field and stop incoming shots. So cool.
And some of the legions as well have access to their own special disciplines. So the Space Wolves, for example, have rune casting. The White Scars have the Storm Calling one. Yeah, it's very cool. You've got the champions. Champions. I already like champions. I was an Imperial Fist player. Champions are brilliant, but champions are especially good in this edition of the game because of the challenge mechanic that we talked about earlier on. We've got Vigilators, the Esoterists, and some of these unlock or are used to unlock those Space Marine detachments, so the Vigilators terrorists, for example. One thing that is really cool in this slot is the Herald.
You're a big fan of Heralds in 2nd edition.
I liked Heralds in 2nd edition.
Jay loves a banner.
I like a banner, yeah. And the Heralds, they used to give a unit line in 2nd edition so they could score. They don't do that anymore. They've got a really, really cool sort of mechanic now where they acquire glory. Or honour, sorry. So if they're in a challenge and they win a challenge, they get some honour points. If they're part of a unit whose champion has won a challenge, they'll collect honour points.
Nice.
And those honour points translate to victory points at the end of the game.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. So if you've got an enemy opponent who's got a herald who's collected all this honour in the course of the game, you want to take him down.
He's got a big target on his head.
If you kill him, they lose all that honour. And if he gets the disgrace state, so he declines a challenge or something, he also loses that honour.
That's cool.
And that it just gives you another target in a game. I can't. I'm including the herald in every list I write. I just think that whole
really
taunting
like
your opponent with the honour is such a cool thing.
That's again almost like another little mini game within the game.
It is, yeah.
The challenges.
So the command slot, there's a lot of options there basically.
And with that as well, there's lots of different units there that specialise in different secondary stats as well. So
yeah, there is a lot of variety in the advanced characteristics. Or
before it was really just a Centurion with a different weapon, wasn't it? Really, the other character options.
Yeah. Retinues now have their own slot. I think they used to share their HQ slot in a bit of a weird thingy.
And that retinue slot's only in the Apex detachment, but you can take it as a prime bonus.
Yeah, and I think as well, it's there is a veteran cadre detachment here, which includes a retinue slot. These are split, so there's a Praetorian command squad. There's a Praetorian command squad with jump packs. There's a Centaurian command squad. The only command squad that doesn't exist is the Saturnine command squad,
which we know is coming in the next journal.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what that looks like. The biggest change you'll see with the command squads, of course, is that the Legion Standard doesn't grant line or make the unit line or anything like that.
I guess the difference is in 3rd edition, say anything. Most things can score. Cavalry can't, vehicles can't, automata can't.
Yeah.
But it means that you took it a lot of times just because you had a scoring unit. But now, if they got Vanguard, Jay?
They don't have Vanguard, no.
So you can still use them as a viable way to kind of plod up the board and sit on an objective if you want to.
Yeah. One other sort of big difference with the command squad as well is they used to have chosen warrior or the chosen special, which meant that any of those models could accept challenges on behalf of the. They don't anymore. So the champion of the command squad can accept. He has the champion special rule subtype, so he can take charge. The rest of the squad can't.
I think the days of throwing bodies at Sigismund's over.
This is it. Well, I mean, we'll come to Sigismund because he's got some really cool challenge rules, as you'd expect. But yeah, definitely the days of distracting Sigismund with grunts is over. So that's your retinue slot, and there was a lot more slots now. It was not HQ fast tech elites. Onto the elite slots. This is where you'll find your veteran tactical squad, your veteran assault squads.
Now, veteran tactical squads have changed quite a bit. We see them in the front here with the disintegrator guns. That is now unique to veterans. You can't take, in the unboxing I think, you can take special and heavy weapons. You can't. They're not options for them. If you want to take the new fancy AP3 Space Marine killing guns, you have to take a veteran squad, which again I quite like because that makes them a little bit harder to take, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it does, and thematically that makes sense because the disintegrator weapons, they are quite rare, and I mean the tactical squad, nice. They've got 2 wounds each rather than the 1 wound from the regular tactical. They are a bit more expensive. They also have line 1, and I think the veteran assault have Vanguard 1. Yes, they do. So yeah, these fill different roles in the army. And then you've got the Seeker squad here, which is your these are the ones with the special ammo. And then we go on to the heavy assault. This is where you find your Terminator units. I think the Saturnine are in here as well. They are, yes. Heavy assault's a really interesting sort of slot. They have the Vanguard 3 special rules, so these are great. You get these taking enemy objectives, they're getting 3 extra victory points.
Oh, nice.
So, you know, you want to be delivering these Terminator units right into the opponent's deployment zone, whether you deep strike them in or you get transports dropping them in.
Yeah, it's kind of the days of sitting a Terminator squad back on a home objective where you wouldn't score because you're Vanguard, you want to be in the thick of things. It kind of makes the unit play with how they feel in the lore, doesn't it?
Thematically, you guys on a company who's going to ram his standard down. Yeah, I like it. I think it plays to what a Terminator should be like.
Yeah, breaching line. They are toughness 5 as well, so they've got extra pipper toughness.
Saturnine Terminators are an interesting one. These
don't have the Vanguard special rule.
They don't, and they're really a ranged unit. You can give them a fist, but I mean, I've built a unit of each for the purpose of the review. I think honestly, your dual disintegrator is probably the best build.
Yeah.
They get firing protocols if they stand still, so they can just open fire with these disintegrator weapons and murder anything in power armor.
Yeah.
I said you've got other Terminators to do the combat business.
Yeah, exactly. They have got teleport locators, which works quite interestingly. Their suit doesn't have a teleporter in it. That's in the Praetor's suit.
Unit,
and if he's attached to them, they can teleport down with him because basically they've got boosters in the shoulders that boost the teleport onto them.
Got you.
The deep strike's changed quite a bit now. You can't charge after you deep strike. You can deep strike 1 unit a turn. So I think, you know, especially with this unit, I think these are really, really good unit to deep strike because you can shoot unrestricted when you're deep striking. So you can really drop these into a really sort of dangerous position.
Yeah.
And they're tanky enough to last and survive.
So I think if you wanted to go fist and plasma, put them on your deep striking one because they've got the flamer on the fist and they've got the plasma cannon. Your disintegrator ones want to just stand back and shoot things from a distance. Yeah. But then the following time they can go in and punch things with their Saturnine fists as well, which are pretty scary as well.
Yeah. Then we come to the troops section. Here you've got the tactical squad, of course. This has line 2, so you know, really good unit for holding objectives and scoring victory points there.
On that as well, it's worth pointing out that objectives have different points now. So some of the scenarios, some of the points might be 1 point, some might be worth 2 points, and line will stack with that as well. So a 2-point objective with a tactical Marine squad on gets you 4 points. But you've got to watch out for Vanguard units trying to take you down. There's lots of back and forth in how this works.
Yeah,
cool.
And that's it. It'd be interesting. I mean, you know, there's lots of ways to get those victory points. It's going to be fun. They've still got Fury of the Legion, works in a very similar way. You would have seen now in the profile there's different sort of characteristics on weapons. So you've got like range, strength, and FP. Is it?
Firepower, yeah.
Firepower.
It's worth noting that rapid fire doesn't exist either, so your bolters are getting the same number of shots whether you're standing or moving or half range or whatever.
So Fury Legion just is worded slightly different to interact with that new way of they've sort of written the profiles for weapons. Of course, your despoiler squads are in there, your assault squads are in there. Assault squads are good, they've got Vanguard too, so I think we'll see a few assault squads in people's lists going forward. Breaches there, breaches are cool, so these obviously have the 3+ armour save, they have a 5+ invulnerable save from their boarding shields. The boarding shield gives them a couple of extra traits as well, so it gives them the heavy trait and the shield trait.
Shield trait is an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah, so shield trait allows you to make use of a advanced reaction, which is a Space Marine advanced reaction, which is shield wall, which they can trigger, and it gives them +1 toughness. Anything with the shield trait gets access to that, and some units with the shield trait get access to that at a discount. Which is really, really cool. So I think the Imperial Fist Phalanx Warders, for example, who notorious unit in 2nd edition for being able to stack armour saves and invulnerable saves and reroll invulnerable saves, they are nowhere near as powerful as they used to be, and I think rightly so. They needed changing.
Yeah.
But they can use the shield wall advanced reaction at -1 point cost. So
I really like that. Before we move on, the assault marines as well. If they've got bolt pistols, haven't they, and chainsaws, or whatever they give them. Bolt pistols now have the assault keyword. So with assault marines, you can now move, shoot your bolt pistol, charge, volley fire your bolt pistol, and go in and aim with your swords.
Oh wow, that's good.
Yeah, a lot more dangerous, a lot more sort of offensive, aren't they, aggressive, which is cool. Because you tend to see more tactical marines than assault marines, certainly in all of the games that we played at Warhammer World. Maybe that'll flip me.
I think the volley fire is it's an extra round of shooting. Yes, it's snapfire, but there's ways around that as well. So yeah.
Pistols tend to be forgotten about, don't they? But it doesn't sound like you're going to want to forget about them.
Well, no, it's useful. It's still strength 4. It's still potentially softening up a unit before you go into combat. So yeah, definitely good.
But you gotta watch your charge distances then.
Exactly, yeah. And I think the thing with the assault marines, for jump packs are baked into the profile now.
Yes.
It's not as if it's a special that lets you move further. Their movement 10 are they?
So we can just quickly check in movement 12 for your standard assault marine.
So you're more likely to cover that initial distance, and that also means that your move plus thing is 16, which is 4 or 5 inches for your setup move. So you're talking like an 11-inch charge plus your 12-inch movement.
Yeah, that's good.
Yep. You will then get the support slot. So here you've got the tactical support squad, which is with your special weapons like melters and flamers, and the heavy support.
Now melters are very powerful, for taking out vehicles. I think we're going to see a lot of melters this edition. But like you mentioned earlier, some of the other special weapons have got lots of status affecting abilities.
Yeah, I'm hoping you will see it, because I think the go-to were plasma and las cannons, like you say. They were the strong. Auto cannons were good to a degree. You very rarely saw flamers. I think that will change. You saw a few melters in 2nd edition, to be fair, but yeah, melter weaponry is very, very powerful now with the sort of changes to damage.
Yeah. A melter gun at 6-inch range is doing 6 damage to a vehicle.
Yeah,
which is crazy. Vehicle damage has gone up, but that's really nasty.
Yeah, vehicles are a bit more resilient now because the way glancing and penetrating hits works is a bit different. But melter weaponry, thank God it's short range, because
otherwise,
but yeah, and it's not cheap though. It's quite expensive, And I was looking at building lists with melter guns in and things, and things. But you're right. I see it. I think flamers are going to be brilliant.
Flamers are really good. Anything that can cause suppression is going to be really good as well. Yeah, really good options.
You've also got the little artillery pieces, the rapier batteries in the support. And these have the support unit rule. These units do, and I think support unit is also a bit like Vanguard in that it reduces the amount of victory points you can score for claiming an objective.
So support unit, I think, limits the number you can take.
I thought it was.
Support unit can only ever score a maximum number of victory points stated. So. They're not. Right. You can't really use them for taking objectives. They've normally got, I forget what the keyword is, sacrificial or something. Expendable. So if you lose them, you don't give your opponent points for first strike either. But equally, you can't just drop them out of the sky into an objective because you can't get any points. Well, they can get some points, but it's like limited. Support 1. That's the most you can ever get with them.
Yeah. You've got the Apothecary and the Tetmarine here.
Now these work quite a bit differently to the previous edition as well, don't they?
They do. They have the Tetmarine, we look at first, has this Battlesmith ability, which allows it to, so vehicles can do a repair at the end of I think it's one of the phases at the end of the term, where they can try and, so vehicles are much more resilient in this edition, they can try and recover wounds.
And wipe statuses as well, because vehicles can get statuses too.
I was going to say in the previous edition you could get rid of immobilise, couldn't you?
Shock and stuff, yeah, so the Battlesmith sort of interacts with that and makes it, adds modifiers to those rolls.
So, and again, going back to that, if you've got a weapon that causes pin, to do that on a vehicle, you stop the vehicle from moving, but it has got a chance of clearing that status on itself.
Yeah.
And the Medic has the Apothecary has the Medic special rule as well, which is interacts with the recovery tests that you make. I don't think it gives you feel no pain anymore. The not see him. I can't remember how you say it.
So Medic just allows you to it kind of sets a target number for recovery tests that you try and kind of
I think it's
get
normally
wounds back. It's not feeling no pain. It's basically a kind of.
It's at the end of the phase you do this recovery test.
A bit more like it will not die from editions gone past.
Yeah, and like you say, the Medic number gives you that bonus to those rolls. Yeah. So I still think there's a place for Apothecaries. I do quite like them still. And then we've got the Deathstorm drop pod, which I believe is the drop pod with all the weapons in it. Lands down, which is pretty cool. And you've got the new Arachne Quad Accelerator.
Now that's pretty cool, isn't it? Now this thing, it's an interesting one. And in case you haven't seen, the legs are all articulated because this could go over terrain and the legs can position so it can stand there. For the purposes of kind of like measuring to it, you just treat the kind of top turret because a 3-inch bubble around it. It's actually got a force field generator.
Nice.
It gives a 5+ invulnerable save to nearby units, which is really, really cool. It's a vehicle in terms of it's got armour values and hull points. And it's such a nice model as well.
I mean, I've just recently built some tarantulas and some rapier batteries, and I expect it to be like the slightly older brother, but actually he's more like the dad. He's pretty big. Yeah, I
mean the turret for scale fits on Sakaran, so it's a fair old size, this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like it. You then got the war engine slots. This is where you find the various dreadnoughts, so the Contempt to Dread.
No massive changes here, but I think they've been toned down compared to how they were in the previous edition.
They have. I think the biggest changes, the weapon skill and blister skill is now only 4, not 5. So they're not at such an advantage against regular tactical marines and things like this,
I think seeing 5 is quite a rarity, isn't it?
Yeah, well, weapon skill 5 now that's your elite units, your command squads, your elite legion units, which is good because it means that they're not getting pulverised by dreadnoughts anymore. Yeah. So that's good. Other than that, not much else to say. There's no brutal anymore, which is another big change for the dreadnoughts.
I've got the new Saturnine dreadnought in there, and this is a strange one. It's not. I think they've kind of redefined where the dreadnoughts sit. So the Dreadio's now your long range air support one. Your Leviathan's your close combat one. The Saturnine dreadnoughts, it's more of a mid-ground kind of one. You've got disintegrator weapons. You've got that plasma. It's got the inversion beamer, which does more damage the closer you get to it, which is really cool. Yeah. So it is kind of like a mid-ground dreadnought, and that's quite nice. You can tailor your list with what flavour dreadnought you want. Contemptors, again, are fairly interchangeable weapons like you used to be able to back in the day.
Yeah, very flexible. Yeah.
You've got a range of different dreadnoughts for different jobs now, which is cool.
Yeah. They have the Walker type as well, and I think the Walker type can't claim objectives now, is that right?
Oh, you put me on the spot now. I don't think Walkers can claim objectives. It definitely interacts with some of the bits in there. Yeah. I don't think Dreadnoughts are going to be quite as oppressive as they were in this edition.
No, you won't see as many of them due to the way army build, we talked about earlier on. And I think, I think you won't feel so bad for taking so many and including them in your army now because they're not as oppressive as they were in second. So, and I think the Contemptor Dreadnought in particular is a really, really iconic Horus Heresy unit. So it's great that you can include them without really, being so, like I say.
And you can still spam them, but it's going to take you a lot more work and a much more limited list, aren't you?
Yeah. You've then got the transport slot. Here you've got the good old trusty Rhino, which gets this auto repair 4+, so it gets this bonus to these repair tests that it can make. It's a light transport. I think you mentioned this earlier on, Matt. There's a distinction now between the transport. In effect, this basically means it can't carry anything with the bulky, bulky type. Yeah.
And the main distinction between transports and heavy transporters as well is that you've got to buy a slot for your heavy transport. So while Land Raiders and Spartans and stuff are cool, that is a resource in your kind of like detachment slots as well.
Yeah.
You've got the regular drop pod and the termite in here as well. I didn't usually see the termite in there as a light transport, but it is. Because I'm pretty sure Abaddon arrived in that termite.
You did.
I look forward to
hopefully
getting a plastic one of those in the future.
I think
Fingers
so.
crossed.
I think so.
Yeah, and then you come to the heavy transport. So this is your Land Raider carrier. This is the assault vehicle special rule. So you can now charge from any vehicle. So if you embark on a vehicle, you disembark, you can charge. If you charge from a vehicle which doesn't have the assault special rule, it counts as a disordered charge.
Which basically what you do get your charge bonuses. Now don't forget, +1 attacks doesn't exist anymore, but you might have a special rule that on the charge you do X, Y, Z, you wouldn't get it for that.
Yeah, that's fair.
The Spartans in here as well. I don't believe flare shields are a thing anymore.
Flare shields do still exist, but I think they work in a slightly different way.
Oh, the Spartan doesn't have a flare shield.
Yeah, the Mechanicum units do. So, yeah, I don't think it's actually listed in the Marine book, the flare shield rule, so I think it's just going to be on those more exotic transports maybe.
Yeah, but it is still a very, very nice unit, so it's got movement 10, 14 armour all around, 10 hull points.
Yeah.
I mean, when you compare that to a Land Raider that has 8 hull points.
Still, 3 melters at close range.
Yeah, well, this is it, yeah. It has a transport capacity of 26 compared to the transport capacity of 12 on the Land Raider carrier. So, I mean, there's still a place, I think, for Spartans.
I think it's one of my favourite tanks.
It's a lovely tank, yeah.
Such a nice tank.
You've got the Dreadnought drop pod, the Dread Claw drop pod, and the I can never say it, the Charybdis. Yeah. Then we come to a recon slot. Sorry. This has the reconnaissance squad in there. It has the Sabre, the little light tank.
Yeah.
It's got the Outrider squadron and the Land Raider Explorator, which is cool because you can use another slot to get that armor 14. Yeah. It's nice. This has a lot of transport capacity as well. I think the Tarantula batteries, these have had new plastic models recently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they have.
They're in there in your recon slot, and they've got a really cool automated fire advanced reaction. So when an enemy unit, so I think you can infiltrate these. So they have the infiltrate special. Yeah, infiltrate 9. So this means they can be deployed 9 inches out of your deployment zone. They've got the expendable special rules, well, expendable 3, I believe. So they're not given as many. They're quite sacrificial. And they've got this really, really cool automated fire advanced reaction, which they can activate when an enemy unit ends its move within 48 inches and just allows you to shoot it, basically.
I picture aliens with the sentry.
With the ammo.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. The fast attack slot, here you've got a lot of the flyers. I mean, we'll probably talk about the flyers in the core. Yeah,
well, should we quickly touch on it here now? So flyers, if you've played Epic back in the day or Legions Imperialis, it's much the same. Your aircraft are basically stationed on an airbase nearby, and you assign them a different job. That could be bringing a unit in, dropping on the table and getting out again. It could be picking up a unit. It could be, okay, there's a tank there, I want to take it out, but I want to fly low to the ground, find my most powerful weapon, and then pull up before it shoots me. Or, I really need to kill that thing, I'm going to do a full bombing run on it, but that's going to expose myself to shooting. So you assign these different roles, and it moves so fast, it basically, imagine the camera slowing down, and you see that moment of action where it goes in to attack the vehicle or do the actual drop. But what's cool is if Jay's got some Xiphons or something, he can use an advanced reaction to send one of his ships on an interceptor run to take out my guy who's coming in to do the mission.
I've got a Storm Eagle at home that's been unbuilt I'm building a Storm Eagle because I'm even tempted to get a Fire Raptor because I think that is going to be ace.
Yeah.
So
all
cool.
These little mini games going on in the game, I really like it.
I think until this leaked, people are like, oh, you don't need your vehicle. Well, you still put the model on, it still uses its move characteristic. It basically just represents the action slowing down and showing that kind of cinematic moment as it's doing its drop or it's trying to take out the vehicle. I like the idea you can either go in with one weapon and pull out and be safe, or fire with everything, but you're going to be able to get kind of shot back.
Yeah.
So cool. And again, all the different kind of flyers. lean into those different kinds of roles that vehicles have now.
Yeah.
And we see the same later in the sort of auxilia as well.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that, really excited. You've got the smarter jetbike squadron in this, the Javelin as well.
Now jetbikes have had an improvement. They've got 2 wounds now, haven't they?
They do have 2 wounds. They're still toughness 4. They still have 3+ save.
But 2 wounds, Jay. That's all I've wanted. 2 wound jetbikes.
Yes,
It makes sense.
yeah, and of course there's no instant death anymore. So you get shot by a las cannon that only doing 1 damage. It's not taking a jetbike off. So they have benefited from that. Obviously there is multi-damage weaponry out there. But I mean they're just as vulnerable as everything else there. So
but they're fast. But they can't score.
movement 16.
It's kind of a trade-off, isn't it?
They are fast.
Lots of swings and roundabouts.
Yeah.
You've got the Javelins here, and I thought Javelins were a bit of a sleeper hit in 2nd edition.
They
because
were.
they have the wounds and the toughness. So they weren't as vulnerable to anti-tank
It was a
fire.
liability being a vehicle in the last edition, but there they could tank a few hits.
Yeah, whereas the Javelins in this edition, I think, I mean, when you've got melters and things running around, I think they're a bit more vulnerable now. But I still like the Javelin. You know, it's still a very mobile weapons platform with the firing protocol special rules, so you can fire those extra weapons.
Well, one thing we both mentioned about vehicles as well. I mean, we're coming up to the heavy support slot now, aren't we? The way shooting for vehicles has changed. You get, when you pick your vehicle, you get a choice between firing all your weapons at one target, ballistic skill, or you can choose to split your fire. Now, this is all at Snapfire, though some units of rules that let you get around that. You pick a assault weapon, so maybe you were, okay, I'm going to fire my las cannons at that Spartan. You roll out, you complete it, awesome.
Yeah.
You then pick a different target for different weapons. You don't have to nominate it all at the start.
That's cool.
But you can't go back to a target you've already picked. So you've got to go, okay, I'm going to commit my las cannons to that. Then if I kill that, I might be able to shoot that tactical squad behind it. Okay, I've not quite killed it. I'm going to shoot this unit here instead. So it doesn't feel like you're wasting shots, but there is a big downside to that, it's snap firing.
Yeah. Right, and you're right, we are coming on to the armour section now, which is where you've got some tanks. So here you've got the Predator. I'm currently building a Predator with the Flamestorm cannon and some heavy flames on the side.
Flame on flame.
Yeah.
You've got the Sakharan variants in here as well. And yeah, that rule you mentioned there, I think, is the stable special rule map, which allows you to fire weapons without that sort of snapshot.
Right, okay.
You've got the like I say, the different Sakharan variants, the Kratos assault tanks here. This has got that stable special rule. Vindicators are in here. The Scorpius missile tank, which is your whirlwindy looking one.
Yeah.
We've got the Octa Bombards. I love these vehicles, really cool. I hope we see these in plastic ones actually.
Oh, I hope so.
And then you've got your Lords of War, which is where all your super heavy tanks are. So this is where, you know, your sort of, I call them the Baneblade chassis tanks.
Yeah.
Also your Mastodons here and your what's the Stormbird? Is it?
Oh, the Storm Eagle, Stormbird, something. The big flyer.
Yeah, that's in here as well. And then I think that is all of your sort of
generic kind of
units, and you come on to the Space Marine Legions sort of themselves.
Yeah, so we're not going to go super detail on these because it'd be like a 4-hour long video.
Yeah, we've got an article on the site where we go through all of this. So
yeah, but I guess kind of what are your top hits as we go through the kind of loyalists, Jay?
Yeah, so I think the rules for the Legions have been condensed a little bit, so they're not as broad as. So if you take the Dark Angel, for example, they had heap load of rules in terms of all of the different
all the different hexes.
Exactly, yeah. So they've sort of, where they can, I think, tried to consolidate it a bit now. So like I said, each Legion, they get a Legion Tactica, which is like a sort of trait. So Blood Angels now are +1 strength when they charge in.
Nice.
They get an armory of special weapons, and maybe they've got some unit upgrades and things that are specific to that Legion. You get an advanced reaction. You get a gambit. Some of the Legions have access to a special console option, which gives them access to like a psychic discipline and things like that. The Primarchs, I mean, if we look at the Primarchs, they do vary. I think Primarchs now are probably not the powerhouses they once were, at least some of them. I think they're probably a lot more vulnerable now in terms of the way Eternal Warriors changed. So you know, they used to be immune to instant death. Now they generally across the board have a rule, Eternal Warrior 2, which just reduces the damage of any incoming attack by 2.
That's good.
So there's most close range, you 4 damage rather than 6. But you know, some of them still going to get a Primarch.
Exactly. They've only got 6 wounds generally. Some of them have got 7 wounds. None of them have got the 3+ invulnerable save anymore. You know, the 4+ of some like Horus and Vulcan, they're now 4+ invulnerable save. They get access, so you've got the Legion Gambits. The Primarchs also get access to their own Gambit, which is quite cool. I think you've got some Primarchs like the Lion, Leman Russ, those 2 Primarchs in particular have got really, really sort of aggressive melee stat lines.
Yeah, I think for this video now, I think we'll fold in the traitor stuff as well, because I think it makes sense just checking out them all in parallel. It's essentially the same book with the first half, and then you've got the traitors in there, and you've got a similar situation with the traitors, haven't you? You've got your Horus, who's, you know, a beast. You've got your Demon Primarchs, who are really good, but some of them are fairly average stat lines, I think, to be fair, aren't they?
They are. They're not. And that's what struck me. But I think they're still interesting units. But I don't think they're as strong as they used to be, which I think is nice. I think, you know, it's they all seem a bit more well-rounded.
But previously, if your opponent had a Primarch and you didn't have a Primarch, you almost felt in some situations you were already in an uphill battle. I know when I've played Primarchs, if I've lost my killer character, I'm kind of thinking, how else do I win this game? What else have I got that can take down that Primarch? Where it doesn't feel like that is in this new edition. And you look at the Praetor and Saturnine armour.
It'd be a tough fight, but
it'd be a tough fight, but it's the potential.
In a challenge, if you're lucky with your gambits, you could do something there. And I think where the Primarchs come into their own. I mean, maybe Fulgrim, Demonic Fulgrim, for example, or even just vanilla Fulgrim. He's got a rule where if his initiative's higher than his opponent, he gets an extra attack for each point of initiative that is higher, which is quite cool. But if he's fighting a Primarch, they're similar initiatives. You're only going to have an attack or 2 higher.
Yeah.
Fighting, you know, your Praetor, okay, maybe he is going to get battered by Fulgrim, but some of them, you know, can put up a fight. I think where, and you've detailed this in massive detail in the articles, Jay, where the Primarchs come into their own is they give a big benefit to your army if you fill the kind of troops choices.
They are, and this is it. They have a sire of the Legion special route, each of the Primarchs. And this is like, because Warlord traits aren't a thing anymore, so this is a bit like what the Warlord traits do. And you're dead right. They bring some extra flexibility in terms of, basically if I use Rogaldorn as an example, if you were filling your troop slots with tactical and breacher squads, he basically unlocks additional prime slots, which allows you to use those prime advantages.
Buff them up a little bit.
Them up. Some of the legions, so the Blood Angels got a really good one. They've got a prime advantage called the Revenants. Basically, you can use this as an upgrade for a unit in a prime slot, and it gives them the Fear 1 special rule. If you combo that with the Sire of the Blood Angels, that Sanguinius has, you can have 4 such units with that, you know, rather than just the one prime. So it does work to sort of buff your entire army. They all also have a special rule that they grant to all of the infantry and Primarch units in the army for the first turn.
Yeah.
So Jakati Khan, for example, I think grants it's either move through cover or some extra movement in the first turn. Rogaldorn gives everybody a cover save in the first turn.
Fulgrim, for example, gives all Emperor's Children fights +1 combat resolution, basically.
Nice.
So it encourages you to get out there, charge
just in that first turn. So I like the changes overall to Primarchs. I think they are more well-rounded. I think you hit the nail on the head there, Dave, that it's just another unit in the army now rather than being something that you really have to sort of change your plans to deal with.
Yeah.
But they are still quite powerful in their own right, so, you know, I think...
Yeah, I mean, certainly the demon ones in here are some of the best fighters in the game, but to your point, not to the point where you're at a disadvantage for not taking one, because you've probably got, and they're expensive as well. I mean, they seem a lot more expensive than they did.
They are. They're
second edition.
Most of them upwards of 450, getting on for 500 points.
Yeah, Fulgrim Transfigured is 600 points.
Yeah,
now, he's a beast. He's an absolute beast, but he's a lot of points. So it's gonna be interesting to see what people do, whether they invest those points into a Primarch or take the stuff.
This was it. When I was reading through, I'm thinking, you know, you look at Lionel Johnson, he's 460 points. I think you can spend 406 points on some better units myself than the line. I mean, the line's a good one. He's got one of the higher profiles. You know, he's initiative 7, attack 7, weapon skill 8. Generally, you know, most of them are 6s across the board. Some of them have got dropped down to 5. So, you know, the line and Lim Russ, they're really, really good fighters. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how people use primarchs.
Now, most of the existing like special units and characters for the legion still exist. Again, stuff that doesn't have official models has generally been phased out, hasn't it?
Yeah, and I saw this. So if I use the Blood Angels as an example, the Blood Angels have their special jump dreadnought in the 2nd edition. That could be armed with the Gravis Power Fists, the Talons of Perdition. In this, it just has the Talons of Perdition. It doesn't have access to that Gravis Claw. The Crimson Paladins had some really cool weapon options, the Sunset Blades. They just have power weapons now. I think we'll see, because they've got the core units and the expanded units, so we'll see additional units added back in.
And the Libers as well. So one of the big, so if you played Old World, the way the journals are going to work, and they've used the same terminology as the arcane journals from Old World. These are essentially books that are going to be narratively focused. The you know, a good 3/4 of the book is based on a narrative event from the stories.
Series, yeah.
They'll have a scenario in there that is kind of built around that battle. So obviously Istvan in the first one, and then 3 or 4 new units, most of which are done using conversions.
And I like that the book actually gives you some tips for that
Exactly,
as well.
exactly the same as the Arcane Journals do. So I've got a full write-up of the first journal Tactica up on the website, but essentially the old school Whirlwind rules are in there, using the missile pod turret off the thing we talked about earlier,
yeah,
and you know a Rhino or anything that's got the what's it called, the Aquatar Bombard or one of the other Rhino chassis kind of with a turret like a Predator chassis would do it, and it fits in there perfectly, which is cool.
Yeah, so that's it. So the other thing as well, I mean, we talked about this briefly, is you get those extra detachments as well with each legion, so it helps you sort of tailor build your army in a sort of thematic way.
While you get right to war, but not the same as right to war that we had back in the day. And obviously, you haven't got the choice of like warlord traits and stuff. So you kind of the legions are a bit more cookie cutter in one way, that you pick Iron Warriors, you get the Iron Warrior bonuses. They generally have weapon swap outs and stuff that you used to be able to get, but it's not as if you have a list of 3 different warlord traits that you can pick from. You just get the Iron Warrior stuff.
Yeah.
So I know some people might be a bit disappointed with that, but is that maybe something they can expand on in the journals? Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's an easy expansion, isn't it? I think it does get rid of some of the. When I was going through, it does get rid of some of the flavour. Like, I mean, I'm kind of late coming into 2nd edition Heresy, so I've not played it as long as you guys, but I've got really into the lore and the background of the Iron Warriors, and in the 2nd edition I had like Banestrike Bolters, and not Banestrike Bolters, that's Sons of Horus. I can't remember what they were called. Anyway, Shrapnel Bolters, and they don't have that in the new edition. You still have some cool detachments and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you get like the Iron Warriors, you get the Graviton Crusher that can replace a Thunderhammer, but that's your only real kind of upgrade. The Emperor's Children of a few more with like the Sonic Shriekers and stuff, but on the whole, it's really just swap them out.
I think it's a bit hit and miss, because I think some legions have access to quite a lot. The Dark Angel got access to quite a bit of war gear. The Blood Angels have access to quite a bit of war gear, but there's some legions. I mean, the Salamanders in particular have got all kinds of. They've got the Draken Scale. They've got the forge crafted weapons and things like that. It is a bit, but I agree with you. I think some of the character, and I mean, we're at the start of the edition. You know, we need to have way more games to sort of figure out whether this is. Yeah, I don't know.
I think as the game grows, I mean, they're a bit limited of what's currently available. I mean, obviously they are encouraging some conversions here and there, but you have the special fire drakes already. So of course you're going to have like their armor.
I guess it's more of a tailoring your Praetor and stuff though. So a Praetor, Praetor, whatever legion you got, it's the same. Yeah. You'll have some rules that are different. You've still got your different reactions,
and you've got your Legion Tactica, which applies across the board. So for example, White Scars are a faster. Blood Angels hit a bit harder in the first round of combat. So there's a little bit of
You still get the flavour, but maybe less so than you did in the second edition. And less customisation, I think, is the key bit for your legions.
Yeah, and I think that was always a bit of a double-edged sword anyway, because there were some rights of war and some customisations which were very strong.
Yeah.
You know, you look at Imperial Fist and their Stone Gauntlet Right of War, for example, where they could stack all those saves and re-roll and re-roll.
You know what? I think that's probably what they've done here. The armies still have flavour. A Blood Angel's army will feel different than a Salamander's army.
Yes.
Maybe just not the level of tweaking you could do in second edition.
Yeah. I think the Legion Tactica is enough to differentiate between the legions.
Yeah.
And then I think as well, what you'll tend to find is people build legions in a different way because you've got access to those unique detachments as well, which means like a White Scar is going to have more bikes in it because you've got that detachment, so allows you to take more bikes. Which hopefully is enough then to, like say, keep that flavour of the legions.
Yeah, and the special characters still feel fun. Some of them have got again a few characterful things that have been taken away, but then something like we were talking about Sigismund earlier.
Sigismund he's good. So you're right. I think some of the special characters, when you're reading through it, they do feel a bit vanilla now, whereas previously they always felt a little bit special. However, on the flip side, I think there are some really, really fun things there. So Sigismund is a good example. He has a special gambit, which he can trigger to basically give his weapon critical hit 5+.
Nice.
A critical hit 5+ means that any to hit roll of a 5+ is an instant wound with extra damage. So, you know, he doesn't have that instant death anymore, but he has that way to sort of...
He
has a great stat line, and he also has an ability now where he can basically choose, he can call out people to challenge. So if he's in a fight with Abaddon and Justerin, he can go, Abaddon, I'm fighting you, and Abaddon has to come and fight him, which is great. And I think in a way, when I was reading through some of it, I think, it's a shame that, those... But then on the flip side, I think actually you won't feel so bad now about taking special characters in armies because they are a bit... The edge has been taken. They're not so powerful anymore, Sigismund... Alright, Sigismund's got quite a nice stat line in terms of his weapon skill 7, which is quite high.
But he's expensive, isn't he?
He's 250 points, yeah. But he doesn't have Eternal... Well, he does, sorry. He has Eternal Warrior 1, but...
It's not the same as old
He's not...
He's still getting killed by a couple of melters.
Precisely, yeah. And he's expensive, 250 points. You can get a couple of Centaurians for that, which probably do just as much damage.
I think with 3rd edition, I know some people are worried and some people are like, I'm not playing 3rd edition, I'm sticking with 2nd. Once you've digested all the rules and seen the bigger picture, I think they've definitely decided to... There's a lot of rules interactions that were a bit dubious and didn't feel like the books, did they? Like, for example, the example of characters getting thrown at Sigismund and the whole sergeant jumping in front of every bullet to try and not get his squad killed, and the challenge problem where
you kill the rest of the squad and
can fight and stuff like that. While that stuff existed since like 6th edition 40k. Horus Heresy first didn't have a core rule book. It was a supplement to 40k that you play games, and a lot of that's kind of carried over. And I think what they've done is just tried to make the first step to making it its own game. Yes, it's still got that 40k DNA in there, and that, very much Horus Heresy DNA in there. It's not 10th edition 40k, is it?
No, definitely not.
It still plays like Heresy, but they've added some new flavour. Maybe at the cost of some existing flavour, but I think on the balance it's still very much Horus Heresy.
Yeah, I think so.
So we've got full write-ups. Again, this would take us like 4 hours if we were going through all the...
I think it would be different. If we had the book in front of us, we could have gone through each page. It's just impossible to... So we've gone through with a fine-tooth comb and written the articles so you can get all the details.
Yeah, so there's 3 posts up, one with all the generic Space Marine stuff in, one with the Astartes, and one with heretics in there.
Yep.
And then we've also going to have videos up to date and articles of the other Liber volumes as well. So if you want to hear us whitter on about the Solar Auxilia, the Mechanicum and the Questorus books, they're up in written form and as videos as well. We also have a full unboxing of the Saturnine box, which I've painted up frantically over the last 2 weeks. I haven't slept. So we'll have kind of a model showcase of that and an unboxing of that. I will do a full video flick through of the Age of Darkness book as well, so that'll be up to date as well. and we've got a full deep dive review of the Age of Darkness rule set and the Istvan Dropsite Massacre Part 1 journal as well. It's been a busy 2 weeks, hasn't it, Jack?
It's been a very busy 2 weeks.
And what a difference from second edition where, you know, we were drip fed over
Yeah.
it's just poof.
I like this. It's been a lot of work, but I like this.
Yeah.
If you would like to support the site as well, we do have an affiliate link to Element Games. Anything that you get from there goes towards supporting the site. If you have enjoyed this, why not give us a follow, give the video a like, tell us what legions you're creating for the new edition as well. I think all of us are probably starting new forces for this
Brand new
edition.
armies, yeah.
I sort of am, because I was late coming to second, so I'm still very much like, I haven't got a complete Iron Warriors army yet, so it feels like a new army.
Yeah, amazing. So yeah, check out the website sprucemoves.com. We have got all sorts of heresy goodness on there today. But until next time, have a great weekend, and we'll see you soon.